Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's March 7th. We are T minus 4 days out of the 29-day, 6-week Alex Murdaugh trial. Got real busy at the end there. Got real busy. Got real busy at the end. Ran up right till the end of last week. We all had a day off. I missed you. I know mornings felt weird not getting up and sitting here and streaming with y'all. I get it. We might have to consider that in the future. We're going to talk about it today. I was going to move on. We were going to talk about some Supreme Court cases, and I thought we would be on verdict watch. Well, boy, was I wrong about that. Sure, in the post sentencing world, and because we are in a post sentencing world, the lawyers have been talking on Twitter, the jurors have been talking to the media, and you have a lot of questions, and we haven't gotten to do a lot of Q&A. So we're just going to kind of do a decompress, a debrief, if you will, a recalibration on the trial, and then we will add topics later this week. And to ensure that we get to all of them, I'm going to add a stream on Friday morning at 11 a.m. so that we can get to multiple topics this week and see how you like having me live 3 days a week. And we'll just see how it goes. Also, members, many of you know how late I recorded the podcast last night. It was good to see you. Not to forget, tomorrow is our members only live stream, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Don't worry, law nerds. Y'all have sent me some great new books. So we're going to do that. We're going to have a chat and kind of recalibrate and catch up. I've missed all of you. It's good to see so many of you here this morning. We're going to talk about all the things. Replay crew, love you. All of that will be down below. We'll do some housekeeping. We'll talk about the lawyers. We'll talk about the jurors. We'll talk about boundaries. We will talk a little bit about Alex Murdaugh speaking out, but I covered that in tomorrow's podcast as well. So we're not going to get into it too in depth. And with that, I should hit the intro and we should get started. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot of questions, and no matter what I do today is going to feel like a shorter stream, but I have some appointments today because I haven't lifed like a normal human in like 7 weeks. So there are things I have to catch up on this week too. Okay, so with that, let us go. Let us begin. Law nerds, did you miss each other? I know you missed each other. I missed you. You missed them. I missed all of it. So let us go. Let us go.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the Cursey Words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
I think we're going to start with the attorneys talking. And for those of you that found me during this trial, here are a few words of advice. Yes, trial withdrawal is real. You have a routine for like 6 weeks. You do the same thing every day. You're in the chat, you're out of the chat, you're running your life, we're on in the background. And then trial is over and you're like, wait, what? That happens when you are doing the trial as a lawyer too, especially the longer they go. The longer the trials go, the harder it is to recalibrate afterwards and get back to normal. Sometimes, from my experience as a DA, and it's going to be different for different attorneys, for different areas, for different types of jobs, for public defenders, for civil attorneys, but at a busy office, sometimes you are walking out of trial trying to like recalibrate what has happened, and you have another trial in your hand and you are walking into another courtroom. Earlier in my career, I finished a closing argument and my boss was waiting in the gallery of the trial where like the audience would sit and watch, and was like, hey, there's a jury veneer downstairs. The judge is waiting for you. I'm like, I don't specifically recall walking in to look that judge in the eyes and say, yes, Your Honor, the people are ready. He's like, no, I did it for you. I'm like, when? When did you do that for me so that that judge could bring the jury? And he's like, well, you were in closing. I'm like, I'm in closing. I was in my closing arguments. We weren't done yet. So I walked from that floor downstairs and walked in. The entire gallery was full. The jury box was full. And the judge said, Miss Baker, Are you now ready? And I said, Your Honor, I did not announce ready. The people are ready. I was giving a closing argument in Judge so-and-so's courtroom. You are welcome to call and verify. I deeply regret the delay and keeping all of the fine people here who are now staring at me like I'm the asshole keeping them waiting. I mean, I do run late, but this time it actually really wasn't my fault. Staring at me. And I was just like, I am ready. And then I look at counsel table because of course this trial had been handed to me when I finished my closing argument. So I had looked at the charges and that was it. And I'm like, boss, have you called the victim and let them know that we are starting trial? And I look across counsel table and there is no defense attorney. You know why there's no defense attorney at counsel table? Because the defendant, who I'd never seen before in my life, was representing himself. So I walked out of a closing argument into jury selection on a pro per assault with a deadly weapon stabbing case. Those are the types of cases that you would like a little heads up on, a little prep, a little time to talk to the victim and tell them exactly what it's like to be cross-examined by the defendant, perhaps. But sometimes the wheels of justice move quickly and there is no time. And I was like, Your Honor, what would you like me to do if the other jury has a question? And the judge was like, well, that judge can call me. These judges, by the way, at this particular courthouse should have had a reality show. There was a period of time where there was one DA who had way too many cases. Were all special handles because of the particular work that they did with particularly SVU victims. And so they had a ton of cases. They would walk around the courthouse with like a wheelie cart or like a stack of files, like their hair was on fire all the time. Too many cases everywhere. And there were two judges that needed that attorney on this same hallway. One of the judges I was just talking about. And, oh God, stories I shouldn't tell in public. Only a few people will know who these judges are. It's going to be fine. 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 We're decompressing from trial. We're telling stories. And so the attorney was in one of the judges' courtrooms, and the other judge needed the attorney to finish their calendar and be done for the day. Look, judges get very particular about their calendar. They don't want their court staff kept. They don't want things to run late. And the thing that holds up judges often, very often, are the attorneys and the fact that sometimes attorneys can't be two places at once. This attorney, I think, was particularly going to that judge's courtroom last to make a point, but that is my suspicion. I have nothing other than behavior to back that up. But attorneys would do that too, right? If judges would just be like, meh, meh, meh. It's like, oh, I've got to go to Judge so-and-so first. To play this game. You can't do anything without me, Your Honor. You can make my life miserable while I'm here, but you can't do my things without me. That is, unless your boss is going to go ahead and announce you ready on the record. So an entire jury veneer is waiting for you when you walk into court, even though you haven't finished closing arguments upstairs yet. But I digress. So the judges were back and forth on the phone, arguing over who was going to get this lawyer. And then one of the judges walked down. I was sitting in the courtroom that had the attorney in it when this happened. So I don't know what happened in the courtroom with the judge that was waiting for the attorney, the judge who had been waiting for me as well. But I hear the footsteps. This particular courthouse had very long hallways, kind of like a scary movie, very long hallways. And you can hear the footsteps. So you can hear the judicial hastening down the hallway behind the courtroom. So all the courtrooms were lined up, and then there was a hall behind all the courtrooms, and then the jury rooms are on the back. So it was like jury rooms with bathrooms and little conference tables and stuff, and chambers next to them. So it was like courtroom, hallway, chambers, jury room, courtroom, all the way down this hallway. And then in the front of the courtrooms, there was this huge long hallway, and then offices on the other side. So you can hear the judge walking down the hallway. Lots have happened in these storied hallways. And the judges start fighting in the hallway over where this attorney is going to be. The door to the courtroom is open. There's hardly anyone left. It's late in the day. And so we're all sitting there listening to these two judges fight. One of them, a very tall judge. The other one, not vertically blessed in any way. And what the judge said is, I am going to order this DA to my courtroom, and if you don't like it, you can get on a chair and fight me. That was what happened in the hallway. And I was like, please let me leave. Please let me not be here. Please let me disappear into the fucking ground. I don't want to be here. And then the other part of me is, I have to get back to my office immediately. And when I went back to my office, I was like, y'all aren't gonna believe what judge said to judge. Because this shit just happened. Hallway to hallway to hallway. Fight me. Get on a chair and fight me. Oh boy. It was, I wanted to leave, but I also was living, because who doesn't love gossip? But the judge that wins is the judge that doesn't have to resort to fighting, right? This happened in this hallway with another DA and a defense attorney during trial. A DA that was a friend of mine, very tall human, and a defense attorney were in the back of the courtroom fighting. No, arguing. They were in the back of the courtroom arguing because instead of lead attorney, it's good to see you in the chat. Oh, these two I don't think got along super well. I don't think they got along super well. They would definitely fight and argue over which attorneys were where. And the power struggles of a courthouse are a very particular thing depending on the courthouse. And unless you work in a courthouse regularly, you might not know the power struggles of a large courthouse. In a 4-courtroom courthouse, it's a little easier to see the pecking order, but in a large courthouse, you don't always know the power struggle. And it's one of the things you have to learn as a new attorney is to know the power pecking order with the judges. You have to know how that shit works because it's a big part of your world. If you are appearing in front of those judges, you have to know how they do things. You have to know that if you go to, this judge's courtroom before that judge's courtroom, that you're going to step into some kind of a strange power struggle for dominance that you knew nothing about. And half the time, they were all hungry. And that made it worse. So bring food. I learned some of this. I was a research attorney before I became a district attorney. And so I learned about the judicial pecking order from the judges that I worked with. And you could see how it went up the chain. And some people thought they were at the top, and the other judges didn't agree. Some attorneys liked some judges better who weren't necessarily at the top of the pecking order, but were better judges. And so they would go to those judges first. Courthouses are like hospitals in that they are full of drama amongst the people that work there. And it's interesting to watch, but when you get caught in the middle of it, you're like, fuck, why am I caught in the middle of this power struggle right now? I hated being caught in the middle of other people's power struggles. I wanted to watch them and then go tell everyone else in the office what happened. I was much more comfortable with the observer role. Should have known that this would be what I was doing for a living. Didn't realize it then. Angel said, my client is a court reporter. She won't tell me what goes on. Oh, the court reporters know everything. So do the clerks and the JAs. They know all of the things. And sadly, because of, the defendants and the rights of the accused and everything else, you're not going to ever see the behind the scenes that you would see working there. That is not the wildest thing I have heard a judge do or say. There are some stories that just stay, but that same hallway behind the courthouses is where the judges would often have sidebars. There wouldn't always be an easy way to have a sidebar. in the way the courtrooms were laid out at that courthouse before, if the jury was in there, the jury could hear it was too close. So especially if it wasn't a sidebar like, Your Honor, the defendant really needs to use the bathroom. Can we take a 15-minute break? Like if it was a sidebar where the attorneys are actually arguing over the merits of a case or an evidentiary ruling or stuff, the judge would step into the back hallway. So this is a story I did not witness, but came from a trusted source and multiple others. District attorney, very tall human. Defense attorney, not a particularly height advantaged human, but this district attorney was a particularly tall human. Also took very good care of me when I was pregnant. So there is an allegiance there because it was very helpful to me when I was very sick in the courthouse in my days, and was just a very kind human to me. So they're in the hallway with one of the not as tall judges, and the height dynamics here play a role because this DA would use their height on occasion in a imposing manner if people were stepping to them. As a DA, sometimes people want to step to you. So he and the defense attorney are arguing in the hallway with the judge and the court reporter. And the defense attorney is like, you know what? Someone in this hallway is going to get punched. And the DA was like, who? And you can hear it reverberating down the hall when the defense attorney yells, you big bastard, you. I'm going to punch you if you do not stop. Just you big bastard. So that became his nickname for the rest of the time that we worked together. He would walk in, it's like, big bastard. Good to see you. Good to see you. You get punched today. Anybody get punched? No, he never got punched. Our office did send around a memo. This went out previously. It was a joke memo, not approved by management at all. A joke memo of the decision matrix of when it was and was not appropriate to kick opposing counsel's ass. Because there were times that your physical safety would be threatened, and it would be like, if your physical safety has been threatened by defense counsel, and it looks like you can take them, and. So these joke memos, no, it doesn't happen. I've never seen attorneys actually go to blows. Most of the time they go out and have dinner. And I was just thinking, sometimes they end up, in other heated situations, but I've never seen them actually physically have altercations. It does get heated though. And there are other stories some of you may remember from another day, but we should talk about this case and this court and the fact that, when we talk about or at least how appalling I thought it was that Poot had a weapon pointed at counsel table and was like, tempting. That the attorneys kind of laughed and let it go. And then when it came up again, they're like, well, Your Honor, he did point a gun at us yesterday. It's because they know each other. Things can get heated, but generally if there's an underlying level of respect, you can be collegial, even if you have moments where you are too heated. So with that, we should look at what the attorneys had to say about this case, and then we will get back to looking at what these jurors had to say, and then we will get back to questions. Sarah Beth in the chat said Runkle was pissed about that. I was pissed about that too. I didn't think it was appropriate, but you've got to give context for why attorneys might let these things pass. I don't know if I would let it pass, but these attorneys all kind of just went, really, Poot? The same way that nothing much came of a defense attorney threatening to punch the DA in the hallway. It was just like, really? You're not going to punch? Stop it. Just stop it. And things that might seem wild in the real world, sometimes in context, the attorneys will let slide. And they brought it up to the judge, obviously, later, but they're not going to make bar complaints. They're not going to ask for sanctions. They're not going to do any of that. The attorneys all went, really? That's That's what we're doing today. And you can see why when you give it context to these attorneys working together a lot. So with all of that, here are the things. I need to get housekeeping items. One, if you have not gotten your MSCHF managed Connect the Dots yet, it got sent out on the email list at Law Nerds Unite, which is free to join, and it went to the member spaces. So if you are not on Law Nerds Unite and you want the MSCHF Connect the Dots, like 8,000 of you hit the link to get the MSCHF Connect the Dots. Let me know in the chat if you have the Connect the Dots. We're going to talk about it later. But if you haven't gotten the MSCHF Connect the Dots and you want it, Law Nerds, no, wrong link, Law Nerd Alert. Emily, get your links together. LawNerdAlert.com, free at LawNerdAlert.com. Put it in there and we will email it to you. This is our email list. I will send it out to you later today so that you have it to everyone that just signs up today, and you'll get your Law Nerd Alert with the link to the MSCHF Connect the Dots. If you don't know what the MSCHF Connect the Dots is, let me tell you real quick. There is a Supreme Court parody case that I am going to be covering more this week. MSCHF, the art collective in New York that made the Nike Satan shoes with Little Nas X that everybody went nuts over. Loved that court case. A lot of fun. When Satan shoes were the easier day, right? Loved the Satan shoe case. So when that case, this parody case came up, I started covering it. It's the Bad Spaniels case. Jack Daniels is suing a company that made a whiskey bottle looking dog toy that says Bad Spaniels instead of Jack Daniels, and it's a riff off of their logo. MSCHF filed an amicus brief. We love a sassy amicus brief. MSCHF filed an amicus brief with Connect the Dots in it that are riffs on logos to show parody. And it's a really fun art project as well. And I can't wait to see them. Please tag me in them if you fill them in. It's a really fun Connect the Dots, but one of them is BDS M&Ms. That exists. One of them is the Supreme clothing logo, but it says Supreme Court. That's the one I'm going to do first. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. Arm and Hammer and Sickle and others. So we're going to go through those parody takes on logos in amicus of the Supreme Court case, but also there's an activity in it. They listed who they wanted these, the different activities to go to, and asked each of the Supreme Court justices to fill out the Connect the Dots and send them back to them. I don't know if they will. But I'm here for the cheekiness. I'm here for an art project, and I'm here for an amicus. So Rebecca in the chat said, is that the one the Onion did an amicus for? Different case, different take on parody. Octo, we will send it. Yes, we will get you the Connect the Dots sent. The lead attorney, I didn't grab it, but I saw it in the chat. I'm 6'3", opposing counsel, 63-year-old woman, 4'11". We were the hallway in court. She said I didn't give her some docs. I disagreed. She threw her case file full of hundreds of pages at my chest. Yeah, that's not okay. But I can also see it. I can see attorneys doing that. They get unhinged. I can see her just being like, there was a DA. This was warranted. There was a DA. And I will tell this story in a second. Do you need a printer? You could do it digitally, I suppose, if you have an iPad or something and you want to do it digitally. How many pages in it? I don't remember. I looked. Emily, do you remember the Garbage Pail Kids parody? Yes, I do. How did they do it? By parody. I love parody lawsuits too. They're kind of like food lawsuits. I'm here for it. You know, we all have to stop taking things so seriously, right? So lead attorney, I get it. There was a particularly challenging defense attorney that worked in this same courthouse. And this particularly challenging defense attorney would do things that really pushed the boundaries of ethics. Our office would complain to her bosses, sometimes to the state bar. It was a problem. It was rare that there was an attorney that was that much of a problem, but walked into court to file a motion late. And the court staff told me this story, but the DA who received the motion that was filed late, and it was completely inappropriate, but the defense attorney kind of went up and was like, hey, I'm filing this, and like slid it onto the desk. Apparently the DA took the papers and was like, it's late, and hurled it just behind them into the empty courtroom and was like, I'm not receiving it. Like, I'm not dealing with your shit today. So throwing things happens. I did storm out of court once or twice and slammed the door behind me, but it was only in juvenile court. It was never in front of a jury. Things happen. Speaking of attorneys, let's keep talking about the attorneys. So yes, parody cases. I didn't get the connect the dots. How do I get it? Thanks. It will be emailed to you on lawnerdalert.com. If you get the Law Nerd alerts, it is a Law Nerd alert that talked about trial recalibration. It was not in today's email. It came out last week. So yes. Juvenile court sometimes brings out the juveniles in all of us. Things got heated in juvenile court on occasion. Emily, that mug, though, been searching for the perfect size, shape, and kind to keep my morning beverage warm. It's linked in my description on Amazon. This one is a Starbucks collab with Stanley. It's a Stanley mug. You can find it at camping. It is like a coffee pot of coffee, but a mug. It's perfect. So any outdoorsy type store. I go to the outdoorsy stores for the accessories and occasionally hiking shoes, but outdoorsy stores. So whatever your outdoorsy store is that has Stanley, they'll have it. Octo is helping me run the email, so don't worry. If you're on the email list and you have not got it, you will get it. We will send it. So you will get it, and we will make sure that you get it. And then if you do not see it, you can let us know, and we will get it to you. All right. Attorney Alan Wilson, the South Carolina Attorney General, on Twitter. Nikki said, email not working for me after having signed up, but never received an email and not in my junk. Nikki, I would go back to the email sign up and try to sign up again and make sure that something didn't get crossed. Otherwise, you can email us at help@, and we will make sure it gets taken care of. That is the way to do it. The email comes from noreply@emilydbaker.com. So if you want to search for it and make sure it's white labeled, but we can help you out with that too. Alan Wilson, AG Alan Wilson. I'm proud to be back in the office after 6 weeks. And I keep thinking about how proud I am of our prosecution and law enforcement team for how they handled the Murdaugh trial. Your position, power, and station in life don't matter. In South Carolina, no one is above the law. And it goes on. It's threaded. Can I? There used to be what happened to the little bookmarky thing? Damn it, Twitter. Stop changing shit all the time. There used to be a little book so you could read it thread. I don't know. Justice was served for Maggie and Paul last week, and we're not finished. I want to remind everyone, the media. I want to remind everyone that the people Alex Murdaugh hurt are not characters in some saga. Fair. They're real people who are dealing with very real effects of his crimes. This case has caught national attention, and I've heard documentaries and even movies are being made. Is there room for more? There's been so many. In the midst of all that, I urge you to remember the victims and their voices. All of Alex's life has been about him. Don't let that continue. I think that is very fair. And it touches on something we're going to talk about in a little bit. Or actually, we should maybe just talk about now. And then I'll get back to what the attorneys had to say, because this really does touch on something that I cover in tomorrow's podcast as well. But I wanted to touch on it again today because it's that important to me. And it's something that the law nerd community doesn't need to be reminded of. But just in case anyone wanders across this coverage and these words can help encourage, then I'm here to help encourage. Because Buster Murdaugh had to file a police report about being followed by the media. Look, this is coming from the Island Packet. I know how many feel about Buster Murdaugh. I have questions too. There are things I want to know. There are things I do not know. Hi, Fred. What up, buddy? There are things I do not know. My ginger cats are like, look, we just got to get in on this. Today is the day that you choose chaos. Fred, please don't bite my mic cord. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna just law nerds. This is Fred, chaos agent of these two. Hi. Okay. Fred is just fretting. Fred's gonna fret around, so I'm gonna be distracted. All right, cats and streaming. Cats and streaming. Buster, however you may feel, I have questions too. I don't think they did a good job of talking about Buster's alibi during court at all. I think there's more that could have been done there. They didn't really ask Buster much when he was on the stand and he testified. There's a lot of curiosity around Buster. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions about lingering investigations into the death of Stephen Smith. I understand all of that. However, it doesn't warrant, for me, using like telephoto lenses to take pictures of him through closed blinds at his house. It doesn't warrant staking out his home and following him to the point that he is unsafe in that way. That's not okay. There are boundaries, and there need to be boundaries in society. Our desire to know, and I've got questions just like the rest of you, our desire to know should not supersede someone else's personal safety. It's like when online feuds go too far and then people are doxing and calling jobs and, whatever the rest of it. It's not okay. There are boundaries and there are things that go too far. You can not have good feelings about Buster. You can be sus as hell. You can have all of the questions and still respect that he is a person that deserves safety. This doesn't just go for Buster. This goes for literally everyone. People deserve dignity, decency, and physical safety. But he has the right to be safe in his own home. And for what? Just for what? We have pictures of Buster inside of court every day. Are there more pictures needed? Why? Why do you need pictures of Buster inside of his home? It's too much. And one of the things we can do is say, this pushes too far. We can not like someone. We can have questions about their behavior. We can think that they should be investigated, prosecuted, whatever it is. We can want to know what they know. But there are still boundaries of decency that seem to be getting lost. Because no matter what you think of Buster, his mom and brother were brutally murdered. His family is still dealing with that. His dad was convicted for those murders. Buster might think wrongly so. So stop. I want to talk about all the news too. I want to talk about all the tea too. I want to talk about all of it. And we've got court documents and footage, and we've got people that are choosing to speak to the media, and we can talk about what they choose to say. But you can't force someone to speak, and hounding them at their home just puts them in danger. Physical danger. And that's not okay. Boundaries, people. Boundaries. This community, I know I'm preaching to the choir. We're all singing from the same sheet of music. Look, those two analogies work together. We're all singing from the same sheet of music up in here. Because we respect other humans. And we respect each other. And we respectfully disagree when we disagree. But we don't dehumanize people so that we can disagree with them. And hunting people into their homes is dehumanizing. And that's not what law nerds do. We treat people with dignity and respect, even when it's fucking hard. Most especially when it's hard. It's easy to treat people that you align with on everything with dignity and respect. You see them as an extension of you. It's harder with people you disagree with to treat them with dignity and respect when they make choices that you can't fathom. When they do things that don't align with your life, that's when it gets harder to treat people with dignity and respect. But we can do hard things. We're humans. Treat other humans like humans. I ran about this in tomorrow's podcast too. We do this so well in this community. And we set our boundaries around it. If you cannot be in this community, in this chat, and treat other people with dignity, That is okay. You don't need to be here. Goodbye. Because we treat people with dignity and respect, and we respect people's boundaries. Just respect his boundaries. If he wants to talk, he will. But we don't do vigilante shit. And not that that's where this is with taking photos, but it makes it easier to get there. And then it becomes a slippery slope. Boundaries, people, boundaries. Society has rules. And it shouldn't be that hard to treat people with a bare minimum of decorum and of decency. And everything going on with Buster and all the questions that I still have too, he also is still a victim of what his father did. His world has also come crashing down. And attacking him just proves his worldview right, if you don't agree with him, that people are awful and people can be awful, but it doesn't have to be that way. And Buster has the right to be in his home and be left alone, just like Britney Spears, just like Princess Diana, just like everyone else, just like, I think these types of things will ultimately be the downfall of some types of legacy media, because we're seeing it push back. We need to get back to the lawsuit, the phone hacking lawsuit with Prince Harry and others, because those are the types of boundaries that push too far. And we've covered the beginning of that lawsuit where one of the UK newspapers was hacking people's phones to get information. No, too far. And I hope the lawsuit metes out justice. That is way too far. Way too far. There's a big difference between law enforcement getting into Paul Murdaugh's phone to find out what happened to him at the end of his life, and a media outlet trying to get into Prince Harry's phone to get the tea on whether he's fighting with his dad or whoever or whatever, right? Okay. East Tennessee Life, you didn't do it. You're not being scolded. I'm yelling at the internet. Y'all are great. I'm yelling for us collectively. We have boundaries. Y'all didn't do it. This is a bigger problem. All right. Coming from the Island Packet in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Days after his father was convicted and sentenced to 2 life terms for killing his wife and youngest son in 2021, Buster Murdaugh told the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office he was being harassed by national media photographers. At 10 a.m. Sunday, Murdaugh, 26, called the police to complain that a photo appeared in a New York Post article showing him through the blinds of his Hilton Head condo where he lives with his girlfriend, Brooklyn White. I'm not pulling up the link. The photo appears to have been taken at night, with Murdaugh only visible through a gap between the blinds. After looking at their Ring doorbell footage, the couple saw a suspicious car outside their home and told police, based on the car's vantage point and where Murdaugh was in the home at the time, they believe the driver of the car took the photo. Police told Murdaugh they would perform extra patrols in the neighborhood, according to the report. Too far. Too far. The story continues. I didn't realize that. Less than an hour later, White called police to say she and Buster were being followed by the media while going down US 278 near Spanish Wells Road, heading off the island. Police saw the car that was allegedly following the couple and pulled the driver over for speeding and making improper lane changes, deputies said in the report. Police noticed that the driver had what looked like a camera bag with him when they pulled him over, and then he had a Louisiana driver's license. They gave him a warning. Buster Murdaugh is the older son of Alex Murdaugh, who was convicted after a 6-week trial. We know all of that. Buster regularly attended the 6-week trial, along with other family members, including Brooklyn. We know that. They met while attending law school at the University of South Carolina, according to media reports. The trial concluded Thursday. We know that. And we know about the interest of the trial and the suspicions still swirling. The problem is, there's not much you can do in public places, unfortunately. the grocery store, a restaurant, what have you. It really leads people to being kind of home confined by being hunted by the media. We heard Johnny Depp talk about that, and we heard Dr. Curry talk about that in the Johnny Depp trial, about how his presence out in public anywhere was so disruptive, with photos and paparazzi and people wanting to take pictures and things, that he just couldn't leave the house easily. And for someone who's already been through as much tragedy as Buster has been through, I can only hope that it dies down. You're never going to be able to do anything about sideways glances at the grocery store, right? You're not going to be able to do anything about the community talking, other than maybe move. But you can do things about people driving unsafely, to follow and get pictures, to camping outside their home, etc. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Dr. Curry, you mean Dr. Spiegel? No, Dr. Curry. Dr. Curry talked about working with Johnny Depp and how it struck her that he was so restricted to his home based on his fame. I think she actually said, I've never worked with somebody who was homebound due to their fame like that. It's wild. But there are lots of questions. Buster can call any media outlet. I'm sure they've all emailed him and get in touch with him. If he wants to talk, he will. I don't think that he will, but if he wanted to, he can. Those options are available. If he doesn't want to, we have to respect that boundary, even though we're fucking curious. I'm curious too. I want to know what he has to say. I want to know what he thinks. I don't think we're going to. And we all just have to be okay with that, and I'm okay with that. If he talks, I'll be interested. And I'll be here to cover it with y'all. All right, let's see what Creighton Waters has to say about this. Creighton Waters has a Twitter account. Who knew? Let's go see what Creighton Waters had to say on Twitter. We'll get to Creighton Waters' fish tank in just a moment. Creighton Waters, March 4th. Yes, this is me. So happy this trial is over. Very proud of my team and so grateful the jury spoke justice for Maggie and Paul. I want to thank everyone in the public for all the support. It has meant a lot. I'm currently packing up the hotel room I've lived in for 6 weeks, and it's a little nostalgic. I can't imagine living in a hotel room for 6 weeks during trials like this. Layla said it's brand new. Well, the accounts from, I don't know, the accounts from 2012. I think he probably wiped it well before this. But I know a lot of attorneys that play guitar. Attorneys love being in a band. The DA's office had like 4 different bands of attorneys, sometimes attorneys and defense attorneys. Lawyers are theatrical. Lawyers, a lot of litigators like to perform, I should say. When did he create his Twitter? No, I think he's had this Twitter. I just think he's now actually using it since this. I think it was probably wiped well before this trial. Hardly even touch it. Definitely the least I've played guitar over a period of time since I got my first one at 15. I think Creighton regularly plays guitar. All right. Peace, Waterboro. We'll be back soon. Turns car key. Creighton, we don't need you to talk through every moment of your day. The aviators are great, though. This was January 2022, or January 22, the day before the first day. As I was writing my opening, I had an idea of the journey this trial would be, but actually I didn't. Many of you took the journey of this trial with us. The most important destination was reached, and that was the jury speaking for Maggie and Paul. There are still roads left. There are. I think this is Creighton's band. So, Lighten Up, Francis. Seems to be the name of the band. Creighton Waters says it was not long after 5 a.m. and my body was like, get up, we have a ton of stuff to do. And I'm thinking, no, it's cool. The trial is over. We can sleep in. And my body was like, yeah, whatever, man. IDK what you're talking about. Get up, let's go. That's real. That's very true. And then Creighton has a fish tank. Octo. Do you think Creighton's an octopus fan? I bet he is. So that's Creighton Waters' Twitter, which is the, like, let's get back to life. I get it. like, I get it. I get it. I get not knowing what to do with Twitter, by the way, after you're just like, I'm on Twitter. We're going to Jim Griffin's Twitter next. Don't y'all worry about that. Don't y'all worry about that. We will get there. Fred is fretting. But I get not knowing quite how to get back to life after trial and your body just being like, what? I think it has to be Daredevil, right? No, not Daredevil. Deadpool with Lighten Up Francis, right? Am I wrong? Right? No, maybe not. Pee Wee Herman reference. Maybe there is a Francis in Deadpool, but anyway, we can all continue to. That's from Stripes. There we go. See, I'm thinking Deadpool, and y'all are from Stripes. How old is Creighton? Older than me. Y'all are like, it's Stripes, Deadpool. Either way, I like Lighten Up Francis. I think it's Deadpool. It's probably originated somewhere, and then everyone has used it. Either way, Lighten Up Francis seems to be the name of his band. I don't think does he actually say, I need to go back and watch Deadpool. Either way, Creighton is he's definitely reactivated his Twitter. Maybe he was jealous Jim Griffin's Twitter got all the impressions now that you can publicly see the impressions. One never knows. Look, man, I think all these lawyers just want to be like those of us that get to do this. It's like, wait a second. I can engage with court without going to court and sit on the internet and just talk about law stuff. The chosen few get to do that. Let's go to Jim Griffin's Twitter because I need the chat to explain to me the unexplainable. I need to know why, and I don't understand why. And maybe this is really like a meta learning lesson in this case. Is like you're never going to learn the answers to why ever. I missed you too. I missed all of y'all. I need maybe to print this out and hang this on my wall. I mean, maybe this photo goes into the bookshelves. Jim Griffin's Twitter. Walter Burrow, you were a gracious host. Happy trails. I was at the Murdaugh trial. What is happening? There's no alpacas, but what the fuck I was at the Murdaugh trial. Why isn't this a picture of Bubba with a chicken in his mouth, first of all? Why isn't that the thing? Why is this the look that the person riding the giant red rooster is getting? Why does this rooster is this a rooster? This is a rooster, right? This indicates rooster. I don't know the things. Why does this rooster have the best eyelashes I've ever seen? Like, what are the eyelashes on this thing? What is happening? And why is he riding a giant red cock? What is happening? Is it a gamecock? Is it a guinea? No, it's a chicken. It's a gamecock. It's a guinea. It's a chicken. I don't know. Why? Why? Why is Jim Griffin riding a gamecock? And why is the gamecock side-eyeing? It has the best tail ever, though. Why? I might print this out on my photo printer. I might have to. Why take this photo and put it on Twitter if you are one of the lead counsels for the defense? Why is this what's happening? And of course, the internet's going to be the internet, but Jim Griffin chose to post this on Twitter. Look, he posted nothing. This was what he posted after the trial. Not Law and Lumber saying felt cute, might delete later. It's like litigators like being the center of attention or something. But he had the February 18th tweet that came into court. And then this is the next tweet. This is the return to Twitter is this photo. That's the return to Twitter. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand at all, but okay. Okay, do I need, hold on. Does this need to go into the shelves? I'm starting a poll. I'm putting up a poll. Do we need the photo on the shelves? Do we just, at some point, do we just name the pickle Gamecock? I feel like Poot the Pickle might work. At some point, we got to name the damn pickle. All right, we need to go talk about these jurors. I don't understand. I know. It feels like Jim's going to get a t-shirt that says, I went to the Alex Murdaugh trial and all I got was this stupid t-shirt. Like, we're one step away from like boardwalk games. I was planning my trip to the Jersey Shore over the weekend. We have a family wedding in Jersey. I'm very excited about it. It's been too long since I've been at the Jersey Shore, but this feels like a shirt you could buy at the Jersey Shore, right? It would be right next to I went to the Alex Murdaugh trial and all I got was this stupid t-shirt right next to don't trust your soul to no backwoods Southern lawyer. That's like really a copyright violation, but whatever. People are just going to sell the shirts anyway. It feels like that. Alrighty. Let's talk about these jurors and then we're going to get to questions because we've got lots and lots of questions. Simi said, at EDB, my daughter is home from school sick and she's obsessed with you. She's only 9, loves it when you say sir. She's now saying it. Could you please do a shout out? Her name is Sage. Sage, feel better. Feel better and keep saying sir. Just give him the eye. Ma'am will work too. So will. Really? Okay. If you say really and just pause for a long time, people will tell you what they're thinking. It works. I promise. Leela said, good morning, EDB fellow law nerds. Thank you for creating a safe and honest environment for all levels of law nerd. You are a treasure. You guys, I have to come clean about something. You said the word honest, and I'm sorry. There are a few in my life that know this, and I'm sorry, and I have to confess,
I'm sorry. There are some of you that are going to be tremendously let down by this, and I hope that you'll be able to forgive me. I have to remind you, I graduated high school in 1996. I am over the age of 40. I don't watch Vanderpump Rules. I've never watched Vanderpump Rules. I kind of know who the Toms are. I met them at BravoCon. I'm sorry. I can't give insight on the Scandival. I don't watch Vanderpump Rules. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like there's a divide somewhere around 40. It was like The Hills, but with more yelling and drinking. And look, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm very sucked in to the Scandival. It seems very bad. He's sleeping with his wife and or girlfriend and or fiance's best friend who's also on the show, but people might have known, but they don't know. But then he was at a concert with Yachtly Crew the day that it all broke. What?
And I love Yachtly Crew. Like, don't drag Yachtly Crew into the drama. Don't drag Yachtly Crew into the Scandival. I don't know. I've been following the drama channels. I've been following the Bravo world that I follow so much. I really like Housewives, and I got into Housewives so long ago that I can't give them up, but I just couldn't get into Vanderpump Rules. I just couldn't. I'm sorry. I'm old. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I couldn't. I'm sorry. I hope that you'll forgive me. I feel like maybe now I need to catch up. Even my sister-in-law was like, how dare you? How dare you? Who am I going to talk about Scandival with? And I'm like, here is a list of podcasts and YouTubers who have done nothing but talk about it this weekend. And I was so ready for a distraction from this trial. The Scandival is the perfect distraction, except I don't know who any of these people are. They had to tell me. Thank God for Up and Adam. When we were at BravoCon, I'm like, who are these people? And he's like, Vanderpump. I'm like, He's like, that's Tom. He owns places with the other Tom. I was like, okay. The one with the dark mustache. Okay, that's the one that's in the shit right now. Okay. So I'm sorry. Honest environment. Here we are. Should we start a campaign for EDB to be on Watch What Happened Live? Only if they're talking housewives. Because I don't know them. Let's talk about jurors. Has the pickle been named yet? No. We're going to do a poll. Don't worry. We'll poll the pickle. Hempland, Texas said, I'm in Texas with my protein shake, cherry protein water, and ice. Cheers. Ready for a safe place to watch and talk about the jurors. I've been so sad to see the hate around the YouTubes in the chats. Love the law nerds. Look, here's my concern as we get into this. Other than Jen's shout out, I heard you on Mix 1041 this morning. Yes, I was sitting in this chair, cuddled in that blanket. When I am on radio, I am always in this chair in a blanket, especially morning radio. That's how I found you in Dep V Heard. Lol. I was like, hey, I know her. I love the Carson and Kennedy crew. They are so gracious. I love getting to call in morning radio, especially East Coast morning radio is early, but I always enjoy doing radio. Surprised to hear the jurors could make notes in the jury room. Do you think that was okayed by the judge? Yes, it would have had to have been, and we'll talk about that. So let's talk about the jurors. Here's my note. Here's how I view jury duty. Jury duty is one of our most important civic services, right? Fred, I know you love it when I stream, but the lap is unavailable at the moment. You are very fuzzy and you drool on me and give me kisses, and I don't want cat glitter in my coffee. Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Jury duty is one of our most important civic duties. And if jurors are harassed, maligned, if their jobs are called, if they are put through the internet ringer, it is going to be harder and harder to find people willing to show up. It's like politicians for me. I feel like sometimes the best politicians are the ones that are like, I never want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. And then they get dragged into it somehow. And they're like, I never wanted to do this. This was never my goal. I don't know. I feel like it's the same with jurors. You want jurors who are interested, but you don't want jurors who are like, I'm going to get in there and change the system. If you want to change the system, vote for the people and actually follow up with them to make them do the things. And when they do the things you don't want them to do, don't vote for them again and let them know very loudly that you're not voting for them again. They take that shit real serious. They really actually do. So, be the voice of your community. But we want jurors who are doing their civic duty, especially in these important high-profile cases, who are the voice for their community and for what justice looks like in their community. And if you start pushing on that soundboard, Fred, he's trying it. He's trying to push the buttons on the soundboard. He's going to adjust my levels. Let me know if the sound gets weird. It's Fred. But we don't want jurors to be so harassed that people don't show up for jury duty. Our system cannot run without members of the public serving on jury duty. And if people don't show up because they are afraid of retaliation or harassment, our system cannot function. People deserve their trial, and they deserve and have a constitutional right to a fair trial. And you're only going to get that if people who maybe don't necessarily want to show up and do their civic duty, because it is part of being a community. And it is a part of being a voice of your community. And with that, don't harass the jurors. We want good people to do jury duty. The same way we want good people to be politicians, but they get run through the ringer and then they're like, fuck that. Who would do that? Why would anyone want to do that? Why would you want to put your entire life on display like that? And then we end up with the people that we've got. And you're just like, oh, you really like that. People who really want power are the ones I generally don't want to be in power, but that's me. I want the people who would be great and be like, I don't think I'd want to do that. Yep, you're probably the person that we want to do that. All right, let's look at the jurors speaking out on the Today Show first. We have 3 jurors on the Today Show. We're going to go there. We're going to go there first. Fred's like, oh, you're going to fuck around and find out right now. I'm going to eat your microphone and I'm going to sit on your lap. All right, hold on. We're getting to the Today. Fred. All right, come on. While Savannah's talking. All right. Prince Joey said, wait, Emily Sound Guy has the same name as the sound guy for the great Howard Stern. Yes, my sound guy, Fred. He drools, though. Watch out. Fred he wants to do what he wants to do because he's a cat. All right, let's pull this up, go to the Today Show and talk through it. I saw that they spoke, and I want to know how they coordinated their blues. Did they coordinate? Is this a coincidence? Can someone tell me what you think? Chat, tell me what you think. Did the Today Show say, if you all could just wear blue? Because they showed up, presumably in New York, very quickly. And they look great, all in blue. I'm here for it. All right, let us go. Make sure my sound is ready, because, it's been a minute since we've run video. It's been since like Friday. You guys are like, I think they coordinated, right? The show do you think the show said wear blue? They look good. They all look good in blue.
Gwen Jennerette and Amy.
Oh, hold on. And they've disclosed their names. I will just note in some jurisdictions, like Los Angeles, jurors have to wait a certain amount of time before they're allowed to speak to the media. You let me know what you think about that. In Los Angeles, it's 90 days. You can speak about the case after 90 days. Is that better? Let the appeals get filed before the jurors are allowed to speak. I don't know. We all want to know now, though, and the media definitely wants to capitalize on that. So let's go.
Joining us now are jurors James McDowell, Gwen Jennerette, and Amy Williams. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here after an ordeal, a 6-week ordeal. You did your jury service, your civic duty. You were here this morning. How does it feel when you realize all of the attention? You knew it was a high-profile case. Did you understand how many people across the country were watching this?
I don't think it ever really, hit that it would be this big.
Stop it.
Yeah. How do you guys feel?
The same.
Fred.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be this big either.
Camera.
When you saw the cameras outside the courtroom, though, I mean.
But,
y'all,
yeah, that's when I realized this is a big ordeal. Yeah.
Y'all,
What have people said to
I
you?
can't focus. I'm sorry. Fred is choosing chaos with my camera and has completely pushed it out of the way. So we're going to go back to this video. I can't even focus until I actually move my camera back because I just can't. All right. I think that's where we go. Maybe. Oh my goodness, this cat. Ah! I just unplugged my in-ears. Look, mischief managed today. He waited till after the trial, though. He waited till after the trial. I heard nothing they said. I have to start over. We are Code Fred. Where is my phone? We're Code Fred. That is definitely a Code Fred. We don't have a Code Fred bumper yet, but maybe we need one. With Fred just pushing everything out of the way. Fred, no, get off that light. Cat. He's back to chewing. All right. Get off the camera. I'm gonna try to manage my cat who has gone bananas. Hold on. You know what Fred hates? I'm sorry, Fred. I know you hate it. I know that you do. But we've got to just. I know you hate the goat. I'm sorry, dude. He unplugged my camera? Fred! Y'all, I'll tell you what. Fred is the king of fuck around and find out right now. He is done with me streaming. All right. I got to hear what these jurors had to say. I'm so distracted. Fred. Jurors. We're talking about jurors, Fred.
Joining us now are jurors James McDowell, Gwen Jenneret, and Amy Williams. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here after an ordeal, a 6-week ordeal. You did your jury service, your civic duty. You're here this morning. How does it feel when you realize all of the attention? You knew it was a high-profile case. Did you understand how many people across the country were watching?
Did you know how high profile?
I don't think it ever really,
We didn't consider that people would watch all this on the YouTubes. Yeah, they probably didn't watch Depp Heard. They didn't have any idea what they were in for.
hit that it would be this big.
Yeah. How do you guys feel?
The same. Yeah, I didn't think it would be this big.
Me either. When you saw the cameras outside the courtroom, though, I mean.
But that's when I realized this is a big ordeal. Yeah.
What have people said to you just in the last few days? You know, it's a small town. I mean, did they realize, oh, you guys have been on the jury? Have you heard
They
anything?
must have.
What is the reaction you've heard?
So I think that, it kind of spread pretty quickly. So I think that a lot of my friends were very respectful. They didn't try to reach out. They didn't want to talk about the case because they knew I couldn't. Yeah. So I think afterwards, as soon as the verdict came out, everybody was kind of sending me messages like,
How fast do you think their phones immediately blew up, right? It was just like, because when somebody's on a 6-week jury and that's the only thing going on in town, they're on this jury. But, I think the phones blow up almost immediately, right?
What's going on?
Yeah.
A lot has been made over the past few days about the speed with which you guys came back with that verdict. Take us inside the deliberation room. As I understand it, not everyone initially thought he was guilty. Is that right?
If everyone initially thought that he was guilty, the verdict would have come back in like 15 minutes. They would have just all taken a vote. They would have gone, oh, guilty. And then they would have been like, I guess we have a verdict. Or they would have said, maybe we should talk about things longer. But if they had all taken a vote and it had been guilty, they would have come back much faster. So yes, it's going to happen that when they take an initial vote, some jurors are still going to be undecided. I wonder if some of you in the chat are still undecided. That's how jury duty works. That's how jury service works. That's how deliberations work. Some people are undecided. Then they have a conversation. Once they have a conversation, then they vote again and see if anybody's mind has been changed. That is the process that the juries go through.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, so throughout the case, a lot of people had talked about how we didn't have a notepad in the jury room, but we weren't.
How do you know what we were talking about? Hold on, sir. How do you know what people were talking about throughout the case? Did people ask you about it immediately after? I've got a question. A lot of people talked throughout the case that we didn't have notes. Yes, we did, but how do you know that?
Able to have it in the courtroom, but we did
Fred.
have them in the jury room. So
Fred, come here. This is not acceptable. You are going to get yeeted out of this office, sir. That's not acceptable either. Sir. Sir. It could be that he's done interviews. It could be that he's done interviews and that everybody's asked him about it. That's very fair. Oh, Fred is trying it today. He was asked about it in the first interview he did. There we go. Oh, Fred's not having any of my nonsense today. Any of it.
So a lot of people would write down questions as we, went back during break. So I think that kind of made the deliberation a little bit more efficient.
I'm actually glad to know
the questions
that.
they had, we were able to get through them quickly.
Yeah. Let's talk about the case a little bit. Everybody wants to know what you think. What for you was the critical?
I think also, before we go through this any further and before Fred yeets me off the internet for goods today, I think it's fair to balance the fact that they don't have notepads while they're listening and they're able to distill their few key questions back in the jury room, because this jury did take ample breaks. So to be able to go back in the jury room and be like this and this and that, because they can't talk to each other about the case. So when they take a break, to be able to sit down and say, these are the questions I have, you're not distracted from the testimony. You get to contemporaneously retain the questions that you have. I think that's fair. It might be a nice balance. So Let's see.
Piece or pieces of evidence, Amy, I'll ask you first, that made you feel confident that this guilty verdict was the right one?
Well, the witness testimony was very believable, and the kennel video definitely played a major part, and his testimony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Murdaugh's testimony.
Yes.
What about when
And this is what I think we're going to see from all of the jurors. His testimony is what did it. And I talk about this a bit more in tomorrow's podcast. His testimony is the thing. And whatever you think of this jury verdict, I think that his testimony and the kettle video is kind of it. And that's what they need. Again, it's a circumstantial case. They don't have to directly prove this thing. All of the circumstances taken together have to prove to this jury beyond a reasonable doubt by the circumstances that he's the one that did it. And they're allowed to use motive and opportunity and means. And that's why the prosecution argued it so much in closing. And they were like, look, we heard his testimony. We don't believe him at all. And they don't have to. They can absolutely decide on that. And I think that they did.
there was throughout the trial, there were a lot of witnesses saying, that's him, that's his voice. When he got on the stand, Gwen, and said, yeah,
I'm glad
that
she asked
was
this.
me. What did you think? How did that strike you?
Well, first of all, I couldn't believe that he was taking the stand.
Doesn't that sigh say everything? Doesn't that tell us what we need to know? Yep. Law and Lumber says, see, you say circumstances have to prove, yet you continue to besmirch Fred's name. I watched him do it. Fred is moving the camera. I saw him. I caught him on camera. Fred can't even come up here and say it wasn't me, Rob, because it was. I caught him on the camera, chewing on the camera, pushing on the camera. Fred's like, it wasn't me. It dead ass was you, Fred. No shaggy defense here. All right, let's keep going.
And when he got on the stand, I was like, okay, so it was him.
I want to go back to the sigh, because it speaks.
When he got on the stand, Gwen, and said, yeah, that was me. What did you think? How did that strike you?
Well, first of all, I couldn't believe that he was taking the stand.
Same. Could not believe he was taking the stand.
And when he got on the stand, I was like, okay, so it was him. You know, I don't know him, so I never, knew his voice, but I realized it was him. And in the kennel video, that just kind of sealed the deal.
Do you think he should have taken the stand?
No.
What about you, Amy?
No.
He didn't help himself.
No.
If I was him, I don't think I would have, but I think that he believes that he's so convincing that he felt like that was his, last resort.
I agree.
The financial crimes, when the state...
He felt like that was his last resort. And you know what supports what that juror believes? What the defense said. Oh, I should have made this bigger. Sorry. Hold on. What the defense said. And I talk about this again a little bit in tomorrow's podcast. Hopefully more succinctly, probably not. Harpootlian said he wanted to see if he could pull it off. Or no. Could he pull it off? He testified. Could he pull it off? Apparently not. So Dick Harpootlian said, could he pull it off? Apparently not. And that's exactly what the jurors took away from this too. Could he pull it off? Nope. And he thought that he could. And I agree with them. He thought that he could pull it off. He thought he could talk his way out of this mess. And you know what? He can't. All right, let's keep going. Wrong way, Emily. We're professionals here.
Introduced all of that evidence about the past financial crimes and the money he'd stolen from clients, the money he'd stolen from the firm as well. Did that impact your decision at all? Did that make a difference?
Well, we could only consider it as part of the motive.
Yes. And I'm glad to hear them say that.
It helped showing that he was very convincing and manipulative, and so it made sense
Let's talk about his testimony a little bit more, because he was very emotional. People watching from the outside.
The prosecution argued that, look, he sat here and lied to your faces.
I thought, you know, maybe this will be compelling to jurors. Did you believe him? Did you believe his tears? Did you think he was crying? Some other jurors have said they didn't buy it. What, you're shaking your head.
No, I didn't think he was crying. He turned it on and off. Yeah, it wasn't genuine.
Genuine emotion connects with people. Fake emotion falls flat. I know a lot of you have asked and still asked, will body language and things like that come up in trial? Body language doesn't come up in trial in the way that you would have somebody come on and say, I'm seeing these clusters of behaviors or whatever. It comes up through people. The jurors read the witnesses, and the jurors get an instruction on witness credibility, and they are allowed to determine witness credibility. And they are telling you that they determined Alex Murdaugh was not credible. They believed other witnesses. They did not believe him. And a lot of you felt the same way. When you heard John Marvin testify, you felt his genuine emotion. When Rogan Gibson testified, you felt it. Ronnie, Crosby, all of the witnesses that were connected to this family, there was so much raw emotion in this trial. And then from Alex Murdaugh, there was nothing. And the jurors felt it too. That is how interacting and body language, if you will, comes up in a trial, is that instruction on witness credibility. Did I write down what number it was? We might go through that another time and pull back up the witness credibility jury instruction to look at it. But the witness credibility instruction is one of the first ones that the prosecution argued in their closing. Absolutely. Why? Because it matters. I saw the question in the chat. Why do you think Randy did not testify? Rhonda, we talk about that in tomorrow's podcast. So I hate to do that, but we got to wait till tomorrow because I have got to get through these interviews and questions.
I think he hurt himself by taking the stand. Did he make it worse?
I think he did.
Yes.
Why?
I just think that, you know, we already know that he's a lawyer. He's able to be emotional with cases. He's able to be emotional with himself.
He said, we know he's a lawyer, not we know he's a liar. We know he's a lawyer and we know what he's able to do with cases. That was before Alex testified. That was from the testimony of others, including Ronnie Crosby and others in the law firm.
He knows, like what she said, when to turn it on and off. So I think that we were kind of able to read right through that.
After sitting there for several weeks, and again, the state didn't have to prove a motive, do either of you have any idea of perhaps why he did it?
I don't know if we'll ever know. I think it may have been a combination of things, not just the financial, but everything was weighing heavy on him, I believe.
Glenn, what do you think?
I think it was, he wanted to have control of everything, you know, and his wife owned the majority of the things that they owned, he had. So I'm thinking it was more like greed and being in control.
I think the prosecution had a very good point. It's a storm.
Yeah.
You know, at points in time, the defense would take one aspect and be like, you know.
The storm didn't always resonate with all of us, but it doesn't matter if it resonates with us. It resonated with the jury. And they are able to see the defendant and go, we don't believe you. And we think, as a jury, the jury thinks that he's capable of the unthinkable. And in a circumstantial case, I don't know what this jury would have based a decision on if he had not testified.
You know, it couldn't have been this. And it may not have been that one singular thing, but there's so many things there that contribute to that overall storm.
And that's the motive.
That, you know, I think it played a part.
They had you guys go and visit the scene, Moselle, this estate
Oh, I'm glad
where
they
the
asked
crimes
us.
took place. Was that worth your time? Was that worthwhile? Did you learn anything from that?
Good question.
Yeah, I think that we were, throughout the case, you kind of see pictures and stuff, but until you get out there, you're not able to really see how everything plays a part. There were a few things that I made mental notes of that I wanted to check out if we did go out there, and I was able to, take a look at that.
What about you, Gwen?
Same here. I wanted to see how big that feed room was, and it was very tiny in person. And I also wanted to see if you could.
She said she wanted to see how big the feed room was, and it was very tiny in person. What's interesting is that is a problem, I think, in my opinion, for the defense, because the defense expert who talked about the crime scene recreation and the crime scene staging said that the shooter would have come from the side and shot Paul and then gone around behind and shot Paul. And with them going to see how small that feed room is, they can envision how unlikely or unreasonable that is. Remember, with reasonable doubt, they're allowed to disregard that which is unreasonable. So if they go look at the feed room, the jurors are able to say, it's unreasonable that somebody is pushing past Paul, who's already been shot, to get into this feed room behind him and then shoot him from above. That's not reasonable to us. And they get to determine that by seeing the feed room in person. The defense asked for that jury view. And it might have been one of the things that changed this jury's mind because they saw it. So Cheryl M said in the chat, I'm trying to grab it. The chat's, well, there's 27,000 of you here, so the chat is going. If you're new, by the way, don't do the YouTube things. Please subscribe. I appreciate it. Cheryl said the expert who said the shooter went behind Paul in the feed room was packed full. And the feed room still had like shelving in it that had been taken down since then. So let's continue on because I want to get through these before I have to go. And I talk a lot. And I want to get to questions.
Could see down there.
And I told too many stories.
And
it's Fred's fault.
Kennels from the house. And you could.
I know two of you went.
That's a big, big point for me. I'm going to play it again. Because I got distracted because Fred is now in the hallway causing chaos.
It was very tiny in person. And I also wanted to see if you could see down there to the feed room and kennels from the house. And you could.
You could see the feed room and the kennels from the house, and you could. Who does that help in this case? Does that help the defense or the prosecution? I'm going to ask. I'm going to end this poll. Do we need a photo on the shelves? Yes, 75%. Jim Griffin is going into the trial Hall of Fame back here. So I'm going to start a poll. Who did the jury view of Moselle help? Just based on this, I want to see what you think. Defense, state. All right. Poll is up. Let's keep going.
I know two of you went back the next day after the verdict. You went back for the sentencing. Why was it important for you, the two of you, to be there?
It was part of their day too.
Part of it?
I'm glad they did.
Just to see it through to the end.
James?
Just like what she said, we spent 6 weeks there.
I would have gone back because I want to know what the judge had to say. I would have wanted to see what the judge had to say in person.
We bond. We're a very close-knit jury at that point in time. So it was important for us to go back and kind of, see it to the end. We had just decided what the verdict was going to be. We at least wanted to see it to the end, see what the sentencing would be.
Well, I mentioned that you did your civic duty. You're wearing your Constitution tie. It is a lot that we ask of our fellow citizens to sit in judgment of another. It's not easy. It's a great sacrifice in every way. So thank you for being here and spending a little time with us in a case that's gotten a lot of interest. Yes. And thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
All right. That is the jurors interview one. I think this juror, James, does another interview. And we're going to go to that right now because I haven't seen it and I'm interested to see it with y'all, but it is a great sacrifice. I appreciate that that was acknowledged for them. Whether you agree with this jury or not, they took 6 weeks out of their life to do their civic duty, whether you agree if they got it right or got it wrong. But I can see how this jury came to
Alex
that finding. And we'll see what happens next. All right, this is from, oh, wait, wrong one. This is the wrong one. This one we've already watched, but if we have time, we'll get to it. Where is Emily? Get your links right, girl. Gosh. Wait, is this no, this isn't the right one. Why is this not pulling up? Give me 1 second. I have my links in here and it's pulling up the wrong interview twice. So let me grab that real quick and we're going to look at it again. Which lady had the eggs? I want to know who brought the eggs too. Nobody asked. Just curious, are the jurors being paid by these channels? Generally, news networks do not pay for interviews. So it would be unusual if that were the case that anyone was paid. Generally, you are not paid for news interviews. Let's see how long. This is like a 30-minute interview with Law and Crime. We are not going to watch all of it because we do not have 30 minutes, so we've got to get to questions. But we're going to look at some of this. This is on Law and Crime. And again, if you enjoy my coverage of other people's videos, go ahead and hit subscribe. Okay.
What was your juror number?
Oh, gosh. This is hard to hear. Are the questions this hard to hear the whole thing? What was your juror number? 530? All right. Same Constitution tie, same juror that we saw in the other one.
530.
530, okay.
Yes.
When you were first called up for jury duty, did you realize it was going to be this case?
Let me gain this up. The interviewer just said, when you were called up for jury duty, did you know it was going to be this case? I'm also going to speed this up just a little bit. Let's see if we can boost the sound a little. All right.
So I wasn't positive, but we were given a questionnaire. So a lot of those questions
I have sped this up just a little bit so we can get through it. Wasn't sure.
kind of pertained to the case in some way. So I didn't know for certain, but I did think that it was going to be this case.
When you finally got to court and you realized it was, what kind of were your thoughts?
You know, I don't really think I had any thoughts.
All right, let me go pull the Fox
I was there to
News
do my
interview.
civic duty, and I really didn't think that I would be chosen. I had heard that there was 900 some people that were
This one
given-
is really hard to hear, and this juror said he didn't think he would be chosen. I will go through this. If there's any bombshells in this, I will go back through it. But again, I trust the chat when the chat is like, go grab the Fox. Okay. Is it the same juror? Let's see. Let's see if this is the right one. Yep. This juror has talked to everybody. All right. Let's see if we can get the sound on this one, and we'll just switch interviews to the Fox News one. His Fox News interview revealed his brother was the deputy who responded to the scene the night of the murder. Okay. The jury knew that, or the lawyers knew that, though. Okay.
And now serving on the jury. He served for 6 weeks and we began by asking him when he knew that Alex Murdaugh was guilty.
It was very important to me to not make a decision too early. I didn't want to make a decision before I had all the evidence, all the facts, all the witnesses.
That's important.
So I made sure of myself to not make my decision until after closing arguments.
Okay, and why did you make your decision?
Throughout the entire process of the trial, I tried to create two storylines for myself. You know, I tried to create one where Alex is innocent and what he's saying to us is all true. And
I'm going to gain the sound just a little bit, but interesting. He was doing what so many of us do when we cover both sides. It's like, could go this way, could go this way, could mean this, could mean that. This is a lot of interviews for one juror. Interesting.
You know, he's telling us the truth. And then one where, okay, you can't trust him. He is lying. What the prosecution is saying is true. And whenever I got to the end, whenever we got to the closing arguments, the storyline of, you know, him being there, him doing it, that's the one that made the most sense. The other one, you know, it was full of doubt. It was full of holes. It was full of confusion.
And again, that goes to the jury instruction. The jury instruction is you can disregard that which is not reasonable. And that's what he's saying. The other explanation is not reasonable.
The other one made much more sense. You know, he's there. We have a video.
Wasn't that interesting? He had no idea until right before the trial, when they get all the evidence, that his voice.
April. He knew in April 2022. He knew that this video existed before he was indicted, not right before the trial. Ugh.
Was on that tape. Thank the good Lord we had that video, right?
Absolutely. I was saying the same thing. You know, that's just divine intervention. You know, we have this huge case regarding Paul and Maggie. They're not able to be there. They're not able to speak for themselves. But, you know, Paul is able to be a witness for himself with that video.
If you didn't have that video,
wait
do you
a
think you would have
second.
found him guilty?
Wait a second. His brother is the dog deputy? Oh, well, that's a whole different thing. Okay, first of all, if his brother is dog deputy, and we will listen, if his brother is dog deputy showed up and was like, there's nothing I can do here, and then left. Dog deputy Chad came in. So if that's dog deputy, they would have known that. If they are related to dog deputy, they would have known that, but that is not a huge deal. Okay, let's get into this. I know we talked about, look, Evo is a very attractive pooch. We're going to leave it there. Let's keep going.
You know, we've had talks about that. I think it's very hard to look back and take that out and see where we are. I think that without a doubt.
Hold on. I got distracted. Chat. Let's keep going.
We have this huge case regarding Paul and Maggie. They're not able to be there. They're not able to speak for themselves. But, you know, Paul is able to be a witness for himself with that video.
If you didn't have that video, do you think you would have found him guilty?
You know, we've had talks about that. I think it's very hard to look back and take that out and see where we are. I think that without a
You take out the video, this case doesn't even go to grand jury, I think.
doubt, deliberation would have been much tougher. But what the outcome would have been, I'm not sure.
What did you think about the Paw and Mags? He used those nicknames a lot.
I'm glad
Was
they
that
asked
to
us.
appeal to y'all to make you think he's a family man? He could never do this to his wife and his son, because it seemed excessive a little bit.
Yeah, you know, we watch all of these videos of the body cam footage and the interviews.
Interesting.
And he never refers to Paul as Paul in those, and he never refers to Maggie as Mags.
Yep.
But then as soon as he gets on the stand, it's almost, he doesn't use their actual names. He only uses those. So I feel like that was very much so to try to appeal to the jury. You know, they have nicknames. They're very close-knit. And, you know, I'm sure they were, but I think that was just him trying to overcompensate.
Yep, that's exactly what that's what chat said. That's exactly what chat said. Chat was just like, the nicknames came up in none of the interviews at all.
His points there.
The lying, his financial records, cheating his clients out of money who really deserved it, hardworking South Carolinians that were in accidents, and he stole their money from them. Did that play into your decision at all? You knew he had a history of lying.
So throughout the entire trial, Judge Newman did a fantastic job, and he emphasized to us that information we could not use to base Alex character
really
off of.
like Judge Newman.
I made sure that I separated it. But whenever it came into play for the motive, you know, I've never stolen money. I've never stolen that amount of money, but I can only imagine how much pressure must have been on his shoulders, knowing that his finances were coming to a point where he was going to be exposed.
Yeah. Your brother, a lot of people don't know this, was a witness. He was the second witness that was called to the stand. He was at the scene of the crime because he's the deputy in the Walterboro area. So how did you think, they're never going to choose me to be a juror?
Yeah, no, I didn't think they would, you know, just because my brother was in law enforcement and he, you know, was a witness. But whenever we were in jury selection, the judge reads off the name of witnesses or the list of witnesses.
And he disclosed it.
And I stand up and, you know, I let them know that my brother is on the list. And, you know, they kind of write down my number. And then later on, I go back into the chambers and speak with the judge, the prosecution, and the defense. And, you know, they ask me a series of questions, and then they kind of follow it up with...
Like what? Like, do you know anything about this case?
Right. They wanted to know, you know, have y'all had any conversation about it? I told them, you know, that night he came in, and he had told me that there had been a double homicide. But like I was telling you earlier, he's always done so well about separating work from home. And like I was telling you, I know now that he saw such a gruesome thing. There's no way that he would want to talk to me about that and make me go through that. So, you know, they followed up with, do you think you could be a fair and honest juror? And I told them that I would and that I could. And, you know, both sides have the option to, you know, exclude me, and both wanted me on the jury. So, you know, I think they made a good decision because I think I was a fair and honest juror.
A few jurors went to the courtroom the next.
So Chad McDowell is the brother who would have showed up second and had body cam footage, but didn't testify that much. Is Chad the one with Evo or not? But again, the defense agreed, and so did the prosecution. So if the attorneys in the case don't yeet him, then what are you going to do? Oh, he does look a lot like him. Hold on. I'll pull up a picture of Chad in just a second because he does look like his brother. Hold on. And they did question him in chambers. So with them questioning him in chambers, I'm not surprised that they passed and that this is coming up now, but they passed him as a juror. So if the attorneys have selected him and accepted him, there's not that much that can be done. For reference, this is Deputy Chad. He does look a lot like his brother. Yep, does look a lot like his brother. And the attorneys knew that and still accepted him as a juror. So, well, that's an interesting quirk, and I don't think that would have happened in a different jurisdiction, perhaps. These attorneys sat with him in chambers and were okay with it. And they're allowed to do that. Because that witness was talking about body cam. So, Law and Lumber in the chat said that also answers a lot of our earlier questions about voir dire. They did a lot of the screenings in chambers. Yep. And that makes sense. Because they ended some of the days early. Like they had noted jury numbers and ended the days early for what was happening in open court. I imagine that that's then when they went and did the in chambers. Hold on. Just for the chats, just so the chat remembers, in case you don't, this, we saw him testify, but this is Evo. Chat, just in case you've forgotten, this is from Fitz News. Just in case you've forgotten Evo, this is Evo and Chad. We talked about this earlier. Chat, Evo's a very good boy. We can't judge, judge Evo's energy with the Labrador energy of a Bubba. Evo probably never has a chicken in his mouth, but we talked about this the first week of trial. So, chat, you're welcome. Let's get back to the juror interview, shall we? The juror interview, chat. The juror interview.
Next day. You spent 6 weeks in there, but you went the next day, the last day for the sentencing, and you were one of those.
Right.
Why did you want to do that? Why was that important?
Well, we've spent 6 weeks there together, and I think, honestly, if all 12 of us could have been there, we would have been. But after 6 weeks, a lot of us did have things that we had to get back to, and, our lives.
Ask him if he ever gets to see Evo.
That we had to continue. But we've been there for 6 weeks. The day before, we had decided the verdict of a man's life. And it was important for us to be there for the sentencing, for a decision that we had made, and to see it to the end.
Alex never talked about faith or God, especially growing up in South Carolina. We were in church every Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his religious beliefs are, but not just about that. But, I feel like if I was up there on that witness stand, I would be begging people, because I know people are watching, to look somewhere else, to find people that had done this if I was innocent. I wouldn't be worried about trying to make my lies make sense. I'd be worried about.
And we hear that from Alex's brother in tomorrow's podcast. And we hear that from Alex's sister-in-law. Alex was never asking about how are we finding people? What are we doing? Tomorrow's podcast also coincidentally has a Manscaped spot for the beard trimmer, and I might talk about the sled beards in that.
Who had actually done this and finding those people. And I think that I was asked the other day, do we pray for Alex? And I think absolutely we do. We serve a very merciful God, and we know that Paul was a murderer, and not Paul the case, but Paul biblically,
I'm really glad he clarified, because I just got real fucking confused real quick. Thanks for clarifying for the national television audience. I was confused.
Becoming a disciple. So I think absolutely we pray for him as much as we can.
I agree with you. When you send someone to prison for life, even though they are guilty, what goes
They don't do it. The judge does it. When they make their decision, they're not supposed to consider sentencing.
Through your mind as a juror?
You know, that decision has been on my mind for 6 weeks. You don't want to be wrong. You can't be wrong. You have to be so sure in your decision because
and that's what the jury instructions say.
The rest of his life in prison. And can you just imagine if he hadn't done it? You know, he's lost his wife, he's lost his child, and then you send him to prison for his life. You know, sure, he may have done other crimes, but that would just be awful. I couldn't live with that decision if I wasn't sure of myself.
And I think that is absolutely fair. He's articulating what the jury instructions get to is that, yeah, he might have done the other things, but we have to be sure that he committed these murders, and they were sure.
So in the end, without a shadow of a doubt, you believe he's guilty?
That's not the standard.
I wouldn't have been able to make my decision on the verdict if I wasn't.
Oh, that was such an eye-opener.
And that is the end of that interview. I'm not going to go through the law and crime interview at the moment because we do not simply have time today. I will go through it and let you know if I have any additional thoughts on it. Also, Fitz News is where the picture of Chad and Evo are, for any of you looking for that. It's also on my Twitter. We've seen it shared elsewhere. If you are looking for it, it's there. I'm going to get to some questions so that we can move through, but I will listen to the law and crime interview and then we can talk about it a bit on Thursday. I talk a little bit more about this case in tomorrow's podcast, but I want to know your thoughts on the jurors speaking out. Are you glad to know what they were thinking? Does it feel weird that they've given so many interviews? Let me know what you're thinking. Some of you are like, yes, it does. Some of you are like, no, I want to know what they're thinking too. Art Girl said he sacrificed his wife and son for his own ego. Lovely to see Fred so frisky today. Lola, speak for yourself. Fred is keeping me hopping today. All right, let's get to questions as quickly as we can. If I don't get to all of them, I'm sorry. If you send super chats now, I probably will not be able to get to them. Don't. I will see your questions in the chat. Gypsy Soul Pours says, watch the law and crime interview. This kid seems coached when discussing the financial crimes. I'll take a look and see. Might just be that he knows his mind, but I will absolutely take a look and see. Let's get to questions. Can't stop talking. I think that was a note on all of my report cards my entire time growing up. How old is Fred? 2. Fred is a kitten still. He is feisty as hell. His brother George is just as feisty. Look, we have ginger brothers that we named Fred and George. We knew what we were in for. And they are. They are indeed. Donna in the chat, happy 72nd birthday and many more to come. Miguelina, yes, let's go ahead and end the poll. Who did the jury view help? The defense 6%, the state 94%. All right. Adcomet, get up in the morning and stream with y'all. Hogue, you look a little different. Yes, definitely. Kate C said, my boyfriend read an article with you in it and is a law nerd too now too. Thank you. I don't know which one it was. I've done a lot of interviews. I don't always remember where they all are. Thank you for everything you do in creating an amazing safe space. You are welcome. Question, how long do you think it will take for an appeal? They'll file the notice of appeal in 10 to 15 days. The notice of appeal will be quick. The brief will take some time, like it did in Depp v. Heard. They've got to get all of the transcripts and everything else. So the brief is going to take a little bit of time. Debbie Loves Yarn said Chad and Evo should go on your shelf, not Griffin. I mean, maybe both. I also don't want my husband to come in and be like, what in the ever living fuck? I can explain the Jim Griffin photo more easily. Poor Chad and Evo are going to end up in fanfic novels. I mean, yeah, that's probably going to happen. I say poor Chad and Evo are going to end up in fanfic novels, but I'm sure they'll be okay with it. I don't know. Do we objectify people? We don't, not in a cruel way, but Chad and Evo might end up the inspiration for some characters. He's got a pupper and handcuffs, y'all. I don't know what to say. Lindsay, so how long do I think? I think it's going to take a few months before we see the brief, but we will see. Here for years said my chat made me do it. We'll bring it up with Dr. B on a whiskey stream. There is a, if and when we hit our next milestone over at Law Nerds Unite, there will be another stream, an AMA with whiskey with me and Dr. B. So when we hit that number, we will be doing that soon. Boo said, good morning from Australia. Good morning. Grinding out law studies. I'm here to be your study buddy for sure. Thank you, API. I sent an email on last night's emoji combo. All right, I'll go take a look. B Diva said, here in Norway, the live started every day at dinner time. Yesterday, I didn't know how to eat dinner with no live. I'm sorry. We're working on how much we can be live for sure. I see all of your super chats. I'm going to get to questions as quickly as I can. If I don't read them all out loud, I apologize. Sarah is heading down to Asheville for spring break. It's that time of year. We have like false spring going on here, like the first false spring. After 6 weeks of coming here every day, my mornings aren't the same. I know, y'all. Trust me, the team and I have been talking about it. We also miss it. I also miss it. Shorter streams, but perhaps more days. Maybe that's the compromise we go with. Latanya said the lie about the kennels sealed it for them. I think so too. But I wonder if the lie about the kennels wouldn't have sealed it for them if he didn't testify. Here's my thought. If he doesn't testify, does the jury chalk it up to trauma? Does the jury chalk it up to something else? With him testifying, him saying he's afraid of sled, they're like, what the fuck, man? No. John, I don't think so. I don't think he waived it, but I talk about that more in tomorrow's podcast. I don't think so, but I have questions. I want to see it in the appeal. Sophie said, I'm a county clerk in the UK, and the first thing they told me is to learn the judge's pecking order. Very smart. They set you up for success by letting you know that, because you can accidentally step in it for sure. ABC News Live used you and stream clips when talking about the trial this morning. Cool. On which show? Well, if somebody knows, will they send me a link? Thank you. Catnip tip. Oh, we're going to absolutely give a huge catnip tip to Fred because he's feeling feisty. I remember asking a colleague if he had spotted opposing counsel that I hadn't met yet. He said, look down the hallways. You'll see a pointy red tail swishing around somewhere. That's funny. Attorneys have the thing. Need a space to post our Connect the Dot pages, please. Do y'all want me to do I'll do a thread here on YouTube on my community tab. I'll do a thread on the community tab. I'll put that up this afternoon because I think you can post picture responses in the community tab, right? I think so. I'll take a look. I appreciate all of you. Will Putin Jim stop representing Alex's appeal? Or no, they're going to still be on appeal, they said in their news conference. Make sure there isn't a space after you type in your email or it won't work. That happened to me when I first signed up. Good note. Fret around and find out that is the theme of today. I learned that Taylor Swift's fans pain today after Eurovision tickets went on sale with Ticketmaster. I'm ready to help take it down. Same. We need to circle back to Ticketmaster. I have done the dot to dot on my Samsung tablet and love the point drawing or the paint drawing on it. Fun and relaxing. Thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Froggy Girl. Oh man, I have to work, but we'll be replay crew. Thank you for the super chat. Hi on the replay crew. Allison, thank you for the compliment. Emily, you and the chat are truly amazing. Chat is amazing. It feels like a family. I agree. Thank you. It feels like a functional family where even if we disagree, we all still like each other at the end of the day and are willing to have a laugh and connect on the things that we agree on. I absolutely agree. If anyone feels comfortable, please pray for me as I struggle with ADD and shortage on meds is causing me major issues and I'm struggling. I hate that is happening for so many. work with your doctor and see what options there are. I hate that necessary medications are not available for people. It just, it's just, Connor Matthews, I am aware, I've talked about it in my other coverage of Murdaugh. I have questions about the Stephen Smith case and why it was ruled on the way that it was. I have a lot of questions. As someone who lost a parent in a pretty public way, there are no words for how wild it is for total strangers to hound you and want to talk about one of the worst days of your life. Lucas Blue, I can only imagine as we're seeing it, and it's heartbreaking to see. And I've got questions about Buster too. I do. But also boundaries, which is why I could never be a reporter. I would never get the story. I would never be in somebody's face with a microphone being like, can you tell me this? I can't. I just can't. It's hard. Question, does anyone else find it odd that John Marvin and Mark Tinsley are Facebook friends? I didn't know that. That's an interesting thing. I feel weird that CW seems to be loving this fame. Creighton Waters, I mean, all the attorneys are on Twitter, aren't they? Time Online, I'm catching up on this now, but with the MSCHF connect the dots, it's too blurry to make out the numbers. Does anyone else have this problem, or is it just me? I'll take a look at it and see, but I grabbed the highest quality PDFs I could. I can see if I can compress it more, but we will see. After watching you, I have really started to think about being a paralegal. Lots of paralegals are needed. It is a great job. What is the name of the fowl in that photo? I think it was a gamecock. I think it was determined that it was a gamecock. News stories say that Randy believes Alec is not telling the truth. That's in tomorrow's podcast. And that's in tomorrow's podcast because of the Law Nerds, because as I went to record with the members in the behind the scenes of the podcast, they were like, girl, have you seen? I was like, no, what? And that's what I pulled up. So I talk about Randy thinking that Alec is not telling the full truth in tomorrow's episode of the podcast. I also rant a bit more about boundaries in tomorrow's podcast. So that will premiere tomorrow morning at 11. At what follower count milestone could we get you to start Vanderpump from the beginning? I will consider starting Vanderpump from the beginning. I will absolutely consider it. Shady Millennial said, question, if jury duty is an important civic duty, then why are jurors only paid $20 a day? I agree with you. Why are there no laws to make pay commensurate for at least minimum wage? And we forgive you for not watching Vanderpump Rules. I don't know. It should be. It's one of the most important part of our systems, and it's not treated that way. But I agree with you. It should be. Does our system well compensate people for anything? Which said, question, how could that one of the jurors' jobs be in jeopardy? Like the judge said, isn't that illegal? It depends on the laws of the state and the size of the company, but no, it is not necessarily illegal. It depends. Truly. Jojo Blackwell said, Emily, I'm 62 years young. I've never watched the Vander thingy. Age is just a number. I know age is just a number. I have found that there is kind of a cutoff because of when Vanderpump came out, that there is a cutoff with Housewives fans that they're somewhere in the 40s. There is a range there where people under are more likely to be watching Vanderpump, and those over are less likely to be watching Vanderpump. And I think Andy Cohen commented on it, saying cast members in that kind of under 40-ish age range were texting him, those who had his number, about the Vanderpump scandal, and that those over that didn't care about the Vanderpump scandal. T.S. Lizard Wizard said, I lost my pondered noodle to aggressive metastatic cancer. I'm sorry. He was my soulmate. Seeing your Fred shenanigans brought me so much needed joy. Thank you, Fred. Well, Fred is here to accept your thanks and bring the fuckery. Fred is here to bring the chaos. Fred doesn't want to look the camera in the eye because Fred's like, I know what it is. And I understand how hard it is. I was absolutely gutted and still am sometimes, losing my beloved Paul Nerd Albus, who was 17 when we lost her. I was gutted. Claire and Claw said, will Fred get a chance of parole? Are we going to parole you? Oh, you're drooling on me. I'm going to have to change my shirt. Fred. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. Fred always. No, Fred always, Anna. Anne. Fred always. I don't know why I read the E like an A. Fred always. Always, always, always. Fred is chosen chaos. I can tell when all of these super chats came in. I'm going to try to get to just a few more questions and then I'm going to have to wrap. Fred said, I'm over Murdaugh. It's my time. Meow. As long as I don't play the screaming goat, then he's fine. This juror did another interview with Law and Crime. I will go listen to that interview, as I said, and talk about it. Would love to hear your thoughts on I will. Absolutely. Randolph knew about the deaths per VB on Dateline. I will go look. There's been a lot of content that's come out. I kind of detached over the weekend, and we have a family birthday this week that we are celebrating. So we'll be there. I wonder if the defense felt he would be good for them because local PD was in Alex's pocket. Maybe, or maybe they thought that, he hadn't, here's the secret with picking jurors, and I will not go into this too long, and I'm going to answer this question. Here's the secret with picking jurors. You have to look at how many jurors you have. You have to look at how many are coming in, and you have to know who's there. If they wanted, it could be as simple as they wanted more male jurors, and they had a heavily female veneer, and so they weighed those options like, well, his brother's in law enforcement, but we didn't talk about it, but everybody probably has somebody in law enforcement because it is a small community. So maybe they just say, okay, we're doing it. It's fair. Those are strategic choices that aren't going to come up on appeal. Those are legal strategy and valid legal strategy to leave that juror, valid legal strategy to use a peremptory to remove that juror. The sides, I think the defense still had peremptories left when they got to the alternates, so they didn't use all of them. Do you think it was a good idea for the prosecution not to call any of the victims of the boat crash to testify? I think it would have been too much. And I don't know if they could have gotten into that. I think calling Tinsley is what they needed. What they needed was not to litigate the boat crash. What they needed to do was show the financial pressure of the boat crash for the civil suit. Do you cover Randy's interview with the Times? Tomorrow's podcast, I do. Is this juror who is doing the most interviews looking for quote unquote fame? I don't know. I don't know ever what somebody's motivation is. I can only imagine with seeing so many questions online that it could go both ways. This juror could genuinely want to explain. This juror could want to defend their decision and be like, look, this is it. This is why we made the decisions, and really want to help and answer questions. So I think that we don't know, but that's it. Missy, why are people hating on VPR? They shouldn't be. I mentioned earlier I didn't watch it, and I want to know the Scandival things, and I don't know the Scandival things. Is the podcast you're referring to the Emily Show? Yes, and that will premiere tomorrow morning at 11. Question, is the boat crash suit next for Alec? I think the rest of the criminal suits are next, but the boat crash suit is ongoing. So we'll see. All right, Fred. We need a Men of the Murdaugh trial calendar. I don't know. That might be too far. That might be too far. I think maybe the Beards will do their own calendar for maybe that's how they raise money to pay for the jurors. Fred, there is hair and drool all over my desk. Cat. Orange cats, man. Everything they say, they are delightful, but they are a sassy bunch. It is true. Y'all, I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. premiering the Emily Show podcast. The podcast is pre-recorded and edited, but I am in the live chat so we can all chat about it together. I rant a little bit in there tomorrow too. Tomorrow at 11. Thursday at 11, I will be back here with a new topic. We will talk about some other cases, more time for Q&A. I ran out of Q&A time because I told stories at the beginning, but we all needed to decompress. And I don't know what got me onto that topic, but something did. And we just sometimes follow the ADHD rampantly down a rabbit hole. Friday, I'm going to add a stream Friday morning at 11 because there's so many topics we need to get to. And I really want to cover, some of the things we've missed, and we've missed so much over the next 6 weeks. So this week we're going to cover lighter topics. We're going to cover what's going on with the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court parity stuff, and we'll cover some other lighter topics. We need to check in on our food lawsuits. I need to go see what's going on with the Idaho psychic defamation suit, and we'll just kind of do a catch up of quick bits on some of those lawsuits on Friday and get to questions then too. So I'm adding, oh my God, cat hair all over the place. I am adding a stream on Friday. That is the schedule. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, members only. If you are not a member yet, you can join here on the channel or over at Law Nerds Unite. We have lots planned. Those are always 2 hours at a minimum and then more. I bought a celebratory bottle of whiskey after this trial. I am going to try that. Maybe I'll ask Dr. B too, and we'll do our first taste testing on the members only live stream for our new Whistle Pig vodka, damn it, Whistle Pig whiskey, and see how it is. So with all of that, we will see you tomorrow in the chat at 11, tomorrow on the members only live stream in the evening, Thursday here at 11, Friday here at 11. So I will not leave you the rest of the week. I'll be here. I'm here for you. We all need an off ramp. Fred's like, no. So with that, chat, it is time for me to go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being Law Nerds. I missed you yesterday. So I'll be back with you every day for the rest of the week at 11 a.m. So let's just, I feel like it's part of our routine now because we live here now. Bye.
You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at The Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.